action. Hello everybody, how you doing today? It's a new day, it's a fresh day. I hope you're hop shaking and baking. I always say that all my guests on the Paul Fo podcast are amazing people. They are stellar at what they do. And this gentleman I'm interviewing right now is no exception. His name is Mr. Dain Walker. He's the Chief Executive Officer and founder of Rival. I think it's one of the biggest or fastest growing. I call it the communication. Some people can call it brand because really you communicate. It's one of the fastest growing communication companies in Australia. Mr. Dain Walker, welcome to the Paul Fo podcast. How's it going, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes. So I told my community that this guy is the god of branding. He's obsessed with the subject matter. So I want to start my this conversation with a question, but I want to start with a eureka moment that you had. You went to a conference in your country in Australia, and there were other speakers there. There were people that were speaking before Gary Vaynerchuk. A lot of people were coming. It was like a sales fest. Everybody was selling their products, and Gary got on the podium, picked up the microphone. He said, "I'm not here to sell you anything." First of all, he framed the conversation. First, boom. He spoke for 10 minutes and he did a Q&A for 2 hours. You were walking home and you couldn't sleep properly that night. You were saying to yourself, this game has changed. Something has happened. And from that moment, it started your journey of creating. I want you to talk to us about that experience and what that has done for you, because that actually bettered what you are doing today.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think I always had this idea in my head that speakers had this certain, approach to how to do a keynote. And, I'd been in and out of the keynote scene, personal development scene. I've read all the books and done the seminars. And I actually went to the seminar expecting to buy something. I just had been pre-programmed that that's what you do at these events. You go along, they lead you on a little bit, and then they tell you something. And the main reason I went was because Gary was going. I was a giant fan of Gary. There's some other speakers there, and they're great speakers, don't get me wrong. But what I felt in that room was, I was very broke at the time. I had a job, and I was frustrated, and I was very between worlds. And, Grant Cardone had this bit about how he had a boot camp about how to build a business. And I was like, that sounds exciting. Like, maybe I'll do that. And then I remember running up to the table and I said to the girl there, I was like, I don't have the money to put the cash down. I'm not a business owner, but I'd love to do the boot camp. And do you have payment plans? And she kind of looked at me like, yeah, we have payment plans. Kind of like, you can't afford Grant.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's $2,000 a fortnight for 8 payments or something like that. And I just remember in that moment just feeling very defeated and small and insignificant. And I remember I sat through the rest of the event, and I didn't realize this till later, but my partner was there that day, and she watched this whole thing go down. She watched me get excited. She watched me run up to the table, and then just realized the hope kind of left my body where I realized I couldn't afford it. So I sat there quite frustrated through the rest of the event, and speaker after speaker got up and was selling their programs. And I was just like, this sucks, man. There's not really an option for someone that's broke, And then Gary comes out and he says, I'm not here to sell you shit. Did his story for 10 minutes and then did Q&A. But the epiphany I had was like, holy shit, he won the whole room and he wasn't selling anything. And I was like, what's the power dynamic? What's the power dynamic of giving it away for free, not having a pitch, is you win the crowd.
That's right.
I remember driving home and I was just like, that's fascinating. Like he gave it all away for free and didn't ask for anything. But at the same time, not one person in that room would not have signed up had he sold something. So I was like, why did he resist selling something? I realized later on it's because he's the lightning rod for VaynerMedia, and he's the attention getter. He's the one that brings in all of the leads.
Yeah.
So I remember when I started my agency, I was like, I'm going to give away everything I know for free. I knew about sales. I knew about business. I knew about psychology. I knew about branding and design. I was like, I'm just going to teach it for free. And I just kind of stole his business model. But what happened was, because I was giving it away for free, I was getting leads from it. And I was like, oh, really? The magic in this is not trying to monetize immediately. It's just can I be valuable? Can I give it for free? And the other thing that helped me in that time was Seth Godin, incredible at marketing. had someone ask him like, "Hey Seth, if nobody knew who you were, and let's just say you had the experience you had, but you didn't have any of the credibility, like you were just a complete nobody, what would you do?" And he said, "I'd make content for 6 months, solve a problem very effectively for free, and then after 6 months, I'd commoditize it and find a way to sell it." And that's when it hit me. I was like, you have to give away your genius for free, become a known name, and then once you identified what it is people want from you, sell that.
That's that's a very, very fascinating model. And I don't know what you think about it. I think Alex Omozi has put that model on steroids right now. It has scaled that
He
model.
broke the internet. He's
Yeah.
Alex is just, you know, there's a point in his online thing where he's like, Alex is like, "I'm going to give you this and this and this."
Yeah.
He's stacking his value.
Yeah, stacking the value. Yeah.
Everyone in the comment section was going nuts because like everyone was like, "Here he goes. Here's the pitch. Like we thought it was free. It's actually not. He's going to try and sell you something." And then he's like, "Usually it's worth this." So he anchors the price.
Yeah.
And then he says, "It's all for free.
Yeah.
You're welcome." And just gave away all of his content. But like, if you think about the genius, it's like he's giving it away to get your attention.
That's right.
Right? Then he's gonna later on, with that attention, he's going to transform that attention into some kind of monetization.
That's right.
The back end.
It's very, very powerful.
That seems to be the new economy in being a personal brand is this model, I think.
That's so powerful. I don't know. Do you think that ties to Robert Cialdini's, his seminal book on influence? And one of the laws of influence is reciprocity. That when you give people something of value, they inevitably want to give you something back. So why do you think? Because you have a sales background. That's the interesting thing. You have a serious sales. You led a sales team. You led a sales team. They moved you to another company. You led it. So you have a sales background, but you don't put it in the front burner. And I find that very, very fascinating. All right. So I want you to speak to how does reciprocity, how does it play to that? Because when I look at your content, you never really put a call to action and say, "Work with me," but you get a lot of leads. Can you talk to us about the power of reciprocity on this?
Yeah, I think reciprocity works
and also balance this. I'll also balance that with the guy that says, "You know what? I don't have any money. I don't have money.
Right.
I've got to feed my family." Dain, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, so I think in sales, there's a thing called sales breath. And sales breath is like, if the person you're speaking to can sense desperation on you trying to get the sale, it makes you repulsive. Right? So it's like when you go to buy something and then they're like trying to get you to buy it right away. There's a tipping point where you're like, "I'm interested," and then they push it really hard. And then you're like, "I don't want to buy it anymore because I feel like this person's like, it's all about them." And I think when you make the sale all about you, people can sniff it out on you, man. You start to get the snake oil salesman energy, and you start to become repulsive. And I think like what happens with the law of reciprocity is like, I won't give you the value until you pay me. That attitude, it just doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't really land with our generation the same way it might have landed with our forefathers and our mothers, I think reciprocity, like, it's pretty straightforward. Give so much value that the person wants to pull out their credit card. And like, I do this all the time. I don't just do it with my content. So I produce my content and I try to give it all away for free. I'm like, here's the solution to all your problems. Pump it out every day or as consistently as possible, and don't ask for anything. But what happens is there's also this component with social media where if you spend, I think it's like 7 to 10 hours consuming someone's content, your brain biologically does not know the difference between them being real in your life or digital. It doesn't know. Like, your brain doesn't understand this concept of digital relationships. So when I listen to, let's just say, Joe Rogan for 10 hours, a part of my brain's like, I know Joe, and if I meet him in public, this is why you see people storm celebrities that they've never met is because they feel like that's my friend. They know me. Your brain doesn't understand the barrier of like, I've consumed them, but they don't know I exist. Right? So reciprocity is understanding, okay, you're building a digital relationship with someone virtually, and they fall in love with you for whatever reason. They like you, you're charming, you make them laugh, whatever that might be. That's still reciprocity, because you're adding value by being their friend. So if you can create digital content like Alex Hormozy, where you're just giving away this beautiful content in video format, and someone's consuming it, and they have an affinity to like you.
Yeah.
They then see you, let's just say after 30 hours of consuming their content, they feel naturally indebted to you. I get DMs all the time, like, you've helped me so much. If I can ever repay you in any way, let me know. And I'm like, buy my shit.
Wow.
Please. Like, that'd be great. But yeah, in sales, when you're talking to someone face to face or you're on a phone call, I think what has always made me great at sales is I try to actually genuinely help the person. I channel my energy into them like they're my friend, right? So just imagine you're having coffee with your friend comes to you and they say, I'm frustrated. You just would help them. And what happens is, if in that conversation, they're like, man, there's a lot of value here. This person's helping me. They don't seem to want anything from me. Then they might ask you, like, how do we do this? How do we do this thing? You can still make sales by going out and saying, buy from me. I just don't think it's as potent as building a connection with someone and having them desire to give you money versus asking them to give you money. Yeah.
It's very powerful. I always like to ask people on the show, so what was the process like when you closed your first sale for Rival? What was the process like? How did you attract that client? And what was the process like before the client actually paid? This is important so that someone can hear this and learn some processes that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a process of what I call the power base. And the power base is basically write a list of everyone you know. So when you're starting and you're unknown, it's really important that you write a list of everyone I know. So I wrote down all the business owners I know, all the friends I know, all the friends of friends I know, and I wrote down what they do, ideas of how I might be able to help them. And this is a tough exercise. Like, I've done this with literally thousands of people, and 99% of them really fucking struggle with this process. But an entrepreneur, if you're really an entrepreneur, you'll take this on as a challenge. So I would say, I think it's by the age of 21, the average person knows 2,000 to 3,000 people. You would have met and associates with, right? So I found a way to hack this. So like, you can actually go on a Facebook Friends and you can export it as a CSV file, and you can put that in an Excel spreadsheet. So if you're too lazy, like me, I was lazy. I was like, I don't want to sit down and write down.
Dain, you don't look lazy, man.
From my Facebook. I'm lazy. So I downloaded my Facebook list, and the first thing I did the night I got home from the Gary Vee event is I went to my list and I'm like, who runs a business? And I sent them calls. I called some of them. I texted some of them. I emailed some of them. I messaged some of them. And all I said basically was this. I said, could you do me a huge favor? And maybe 60 to 70% messaged me back and said, yeah, sure. What is it? And then I said back, look, I know this is a bit out of the blue. I've stumbled across something and I was thinking of you. And they're like, what is it? Like, I'm just driving them nuts with curiosity. And I say, can we get on a call? And they go, sure. I get on a call and I say, look, man, straight out of the gate, I'm going to ask you for something and you can say no. And they're like, sure, man. It sounds like it's pretty urgent. I'm like, it is. I started a business. I hate my job. I'm really great at design. I'm really great at sales. Is there anything I can help you with? And half of them were like, maybe. And then the other half were like, yeah, I need a logo. Yeah, I got this thing I'm trying to do. Yeah, I'm trying to build a website. So all I was doing was using my power base to see who does want to work with me. So who does want to reciprocate? Not everyone does, but I don't know who does and doesn't. So I had the balls and the courage to go and ask, to go door knocking, essentially. And to go cold calling on the market. And here's the law of reciprocity, and this is where the power base is interesting. If you go through that whole list and no one wants to help you, it's a sign that you're not a person that is reciprocal.
Mm.
So your power base will either reward you or hurt you for the type of person you've been up until that point. If you've been a great person, you've helped people, and you have a good reputation, man, that list is going to be like, yo, I'll help you out. And if you've been terrible and selfish and sales breathy your whole life, that list is going to say to you, I don't want to work with you. So the reason this exercise is important is because about half my students that do this come back to me and say, no one wants to work with me. And I'm like, awesome, that's great. And they're like, what do you mean that's great? And I would say, well, that's validation that you need to work on yourself and you need to be a better human being. And they're like, oh my God, right? So either your power base will hurt you or it'll help you. In my case, it helped me because I'd done a lot. So then what happened was that initial group of people became clients. $50 logos, $100 posters, $200 websites, like whatever I could get my hands on. As I was working with those clients, I was producing content about what I was doing and distributing it for free. Free tips on content, free tips on logos, free tips on color palettes. Just giving it away for free. After 6 weeks of doing this, I had a handful of people I knew pay me a little bit of money. Like not enough to really make it worthwhile. But I was proactively building my business. It wasn't profitable, but I was problem solving. I was learning what are their problems, what are their challenges. I was learning what doesn't work. I was learning how to present, how to pitch, how to get my idea across the line. So I probably I didn't lose money, but I lost time. Like I spent more time than it was worth the money initially in the first 6 weeks. The interesting thing is what happened was by 6 weeks of producing content, people started saying, I want to work with you. Show me your work. And I would say, I've done all this work. So within that 6 weeks, I'd done work. And I'd said, here we go. But I was learning so much. I was upskilling myself so much that I went from $50 jobs to $500 jobs to $1,000 jobs. And then by week 6, I had one lead, and it was a guy named Mario. He reached out and he said, I love your content. I want you to work with me. Can we get on a call? Got on a call. He said, I want you to do my content for free. I said, you're nuts. I'm not making it for free. He said, here's the catch. If you do my content for free, I'll give you clients. And I was like,
I remember that story.
He goes, I'll call you back tomorrow. Calls me back the next day and he says, Dain, I've got you 6 clients. It's $10,000.
Booked in your calendar.
Booked my calendar and said,
booked your calendar. I know the guy.
Like, sure, yeah. So then I was faced with the dilemma of in order to fulfill these contracts that he'd given me, there were 6-month contracts for $10,000 a month, US dollars. That was more than my job paid me. So I quit my job. It was terrifying. And then I went through that stack of clients and I learned a lot about what to do and what not to do. So like, I think when you're building a company, you're often learning what to do and what not to do, but you kind of have to go through what I call the trial by fire. So many people try to start a business in perfection. You have to get baptized by fire to succeed. Like you have to burn your hands a few times and learn, oh, that pissed that client off. I can't do that again. And I just was speeding up the process of the do's and don'ts. And I think so many people that want to be an entrepreneur, I call them wantrepreneurs, they don't want to deal with the ugly, not making any money stage of building a business, right? So that was the initial process. Once I got through my power base, and then I started relying on my content. So now my power base is growing. And it's not people I know, it's people I'm meeting. And they're reaching out in DMs saying, can you help me with X? Now, a lot of people don't know that 77% of DMs on social media are people asking for help. So if you look at how many people use social media and then you do the math, right? I think it's like 400 million people use Instagram or something. 77% of them use Instagram to ask for help, seek answers to problems they have. People are using social media as like this self-help system. And if you start to realize, I'm going to self-help people for free, guess what comes next? The DMs. Can you help me with X? You seem to be great at X. Can you help me with Y? Can you help me do X, Y, Z? That's when you start to monetize it. So I started changing what I sold over the lifetime of me growing my company on social media. But the process is simple. Whenever you can produce content, people say, can you help me? I say, sure. Here's a link. Book a call with me. Don't try to go straight to the sale. Get on a call with them. So then my process would be 5 steps. Number 1, what do you need? oh, I need a logo. Why do you need the logo? My branding sucks.